This is episode 3, and it's the turning point of your hot surface journey. So far, episode 1 and 2 were just the warm up. We got comfy with Blender, learned the basics, stretched those creative muscle a bit. But now, it's time to step into the field. No fluff, no passive watching. This isn't just another tutorial. This is your first machine. Follow every instruction carefully, and by the end, you'll have your very first sci-fi prop ready to upload to your portfolio. And I'm genuinely excited to help transform you into a hot surface artist. By the way, don't worry, I'm not here to sell you any fancy add-on like everyone else. You don't need a single paid add-ons as a beginner, not now. We are only using Blender built-in tools, everything you already have. So, no excuse. This tutorial is for everyone. Right now, what matters is mastering the skill. Once you level up and understand the game, I'll tell you exactly which add-on can speed up your workflow. So, first, build the foundation. Get sharp, then get fast. And that's all I wanted to share. Now, let's start modeling. Let's build that barrel, make it sci-fi. Let's go, baby. Alright, to start the blockout, I'm gonna press Shift plus A and add a cylinder. Now, important tip. After you add it, don't click anywhere else yet. You'll see a small menu appears at the bottom left. If that disappears, you'll have to add a cylinder again to get it back. So make sure to catch it right away. Click that menu and let's increase the vertices from 32 to 64. This gives us a smoother, high resolution cylinder. Next, right click the cylinder and choose Shade Auto Smooth. I'm gonna scale it on the Z axis to stretch it out, maybe just a bit more. At this point, press Ctrl plus A and apply the scale. Here's why that matters. When you scale an object in Blender, the size changes visually, but the actual scale value becomes inconsistent. You can see this if you press the N to bring up this side panel and check. Under the item tab, for example, the Z scale might show something like 1.3 while X and Y still are 1.0. The more I scale, the more it will be problematic, because if I go into edit mode, switch to face select and bevel the top face, watch what happens. The bevel comes out weird and uneven, almost flat. That's because the scale isn't applied. To fix that, just Ctrl plus A, apply the scale. Now if we bevel the top face again, clean, sharp and correct. This will reset the value to 1. It might sound a lot, but trust me, you'll get used to it. It's all muscle memory. Oh, and here's a quick pro tip. If you want to add more undo steps, go to Edit, Preferences, System, and bump up the undo steps to 256. That way, if you make a bunch of mistakes, you can roll back as far as needed, so you don't have to cry. Alright, let's get back and apply scale, go to edit mode and switch to face select. I'm gonna select the top face, press Ctrl plus B to chamfer, maybe adjust a bit to find the best amount. This looks good. I'll select the bottom face and do a very small chamfer. We almost finished the blockout. Next, staying in edit mode, I'll add a loop cut using Ctrl plus R, bevel this loop, maybe a bit, and add another loop cut at the top, move it slightly upward, repeat the same for the bottom, move it a little downward. Now switch back to face select, Alt plus left click to select the face loop, then press Alt plus E and choose extrude face along normals. Move your mouse downwards, not too deep, but something like this. Now switch to edge select. Same way, Alt plus left click the edges to select the loop. For multiple loops, hold the Shift key, then hold the Alt and left click to select all the 4 edge loops. We are going to run a small chamfer to highlight them. Now switch to object mode. It might not really highlight those edges yet. So click on this little drop down arrow and from the menu, enable cavity. Now it's better and more clear. Alright, let's add a small bevel to make it more realistic. Increase the segment to 3, reduce the amount to something smaller, maybe around 0.007 works. Notice the difference. This kind of softness the sharp edges and gives the model a realistic touch. Next, I'm going to add another cylinder. press S to scale it up and move it down like this. Just place it somewhere in the middle. Let me scale it up a bit more and move it down again just to cover the mesh properly. Apply shade auto smooth, maybe scale it on the Z and move it slightly lower just to get the right proportion. Now we are going to introduce a built-in Blender add-on called Carver. Carver is a high underrated tool that help you to cut and slice geometry faster. It has 3 shape options: box, circle, n-gon. N-gon, which is nothing but a basically preformed drawing tool. Now, this allows you to cut and reshape your mesh intuitively. To install it, go to Edit, Preferences, Extension. Make sure you are connected to the internet. Search for Carver. Click Install. And then make sure it's enabled in the add-on section. Once installed, press Shift plus Ctrl plus X to activate the add-on. From here, select Rectangle. By default, set to Rectangle anyway. Then left click and drag your mouse to adjust the size of the cutter. Releasing the mouse, confirm the shape, and pressing Enter complete the operation. Now let's talk about n-gon. Pressing spacebar allows you to switch between cutter stack. Just like the rectangle, left click and draw. But unlike the rectangle, n-gon let you to draw preformed shape using multiple points. Once you form the shape, press spacebar to confirm the cut. Lastly, we have a circular cutter. Left click, drag to size, then press Enter to apply the cutter. Now here's something important. When you make a cut, the Boolean modifier is applied immediately. This is destructive, meaning the cutter is disappeared and you can't adjust it anymore. To switch to a non-destructive workflow, press the Q key before finalizing the cut. This keeps the cut live and adjustable. So now if I draw a shape and press Enter, you'll see the cutter remains visible and you can tweak it however you like. And that's all you need to know about Carver for now. Now I'm going to draw a rectangle cut just like this and press Enter to confirm. Let's scale the cutter on the Z axis and then move it slightly upward. We don't want to accidentally mess up with the cutters, so let's hide it, but hiding them one by one is painful. So instead, we'll move the cutter to a new collection, then hide the collection. So name the collection whatever you like. Now just hide the entire collection, quick and clean. If you look at the cylinder now, you'll notice pinching issue, especially around the Boolean areas. To fix that, let's add a supportive geometry by adding a loop cuts. Increase the loop cut count to something like 15 or 20. Now go to Object Mode, you'll notice the issue is reduced. To further fix the geometry, let's apply the Boolean modifier and enter Edit mode. Now, we'll join a few vertices to clean up the mesh. At this spot, I'll select these two vertices and press J to join them. Repeat the same at the bottom. Select both and J to join. Now let's bevel the corners. Select these two edges and run a bevel. Use your mouse wheel to increase the number of segments. At the bottom, we have a really tight geometry. Let's see what happens if you try to run a bevel. Yeah, it collapses. We need to leave a space for the bevel to work. So I'm going to select this one edge, press G twice and slide it aside. Create a little breathing room. Also, we can select the top and bottom vertices, press M and choose Merge at Center to clean things up. Do the same on the other side. Now select this edge and try a bevel. If it's still causing the problem, we join the vertex to the bottom one. Then select the two edges and run a bevel. This method works because we are avoiding the pinching. When all vertices are merging at a single point, it can create ugly artifacts. That's why we connect the edges to a spot where there is more even geometry. Now when we run a bevel, the vertex distribution is clean and smooth. Finally, copy the same method to the other side. Select everything, bevel, switch to object mode and run a auto smooth. Next, I'm going to select the inner cylinder and switch to edit mode. Now, I'll select the top face and press S to scale it down slightly. Let's make a cut on the left side. So I enable the cover, select the rectangle and press Q to turn off the auto apply operation. Now I'll drag out a diagonal shape somewhere here. Let's see. Move it inward like this for a better placement. Now move the cutter into a collection to stay organized. Next we are going to learn about something insane. Cutting the cutter itself. Yep, you heard that right. Here's how. Select the cutter object. Press 3 on the number pad to go to the side view. Activate cover again. This time choose N-gone. Drag across the line like this. Then draw a straight line here. Hold the control key to snap a perfect straight edges. Move the lines up to close the shape and hit the spacebar to confirm. Now, let's do the same at the bottom. Just keep it symmetrical. You could mirror this detail, but I'm going to do it manually. This helps you to understand the mesh better. Since all the boolean cutters are still live, reshaping the cutter like this automatically updates the geometry. This is a super powerful way to add complex detail without touching the base mesh directly. Finally, let's hide the cutter collection again and move all the new cutters into the same collections. Now, since we use a boolean in a curved area, we need to fix the geometry. So, let me switch to the vertex mode, select these two vertices and press J to join them. At the bottom, the edge looks too close, so I'll select the loop edge. Then press GG twice to slide them upward. Now I'll join the bottom vertices as by selecting them and press J. Next, I'm going to select this edge and also the top one. Don't forget to do the same beveling on the other side for symmetry. Now select all 4 corner edges and run a bevel with around 4 to 6 segments. That looks clean. Let's smooth the surface and add some detail. Select the inner cylinder, go to edge mode and add a loop cut at the center. Run a very minimal bevel with 0 segment. It's called chamfer, then extrude the face inward. Just a small opening. Now select the top and bottom edges of the extrusion and apply a tiny bevel. That helps preventing empty space and add highlights. Next, I'm going to cut a rectangle near at the bottom. Just like this, we got some pinching. No worry, we'll fix that. To reduce the shading issue, increase the surrounding geometry, which makes the problem barely noticeable to the eye. Now hide the cutter. That's already looking cool. We could even add a small cylinder inside the cut, just for extra detailing. Scale it down and position it to fill the space. Smooth the surface again. Now let's move on to the top. Select the top face and I press I to insert it. For now, disable the bevel modifier to avoid interference. Next, extrude the face downward, not too deep, just like this. Then press S to scale it inward. Now select the outer edge and run a smooth bevel. That gives a nice sci-fi vibe to the top, I think. Let's go to the edit mode again. Now I'll add a loop cut here and select a few faces. Hold shift key to select multiple faces. Press shift D to duplicate them. Then press P and choose selection to separate it from the main object. Now we need to add thickness to this new piece. It's currently overlapping to the surface, right? So let's extrude it outward. That's perfect. Apply all modifier, then go to edge mode. Select the 2 corner edges and run a bevel. This makes the detail feel more balanced. Now here's a challenge. We want to duplicate this new piece in a circular pattern around the cylinder. which is called as a radial array. Here's a very simple trick. First, make sure the 3D cursor is placed at the center of the cylinder or the object you are arraying around. Press A to select everything. Press Alt plus E to open the extrusion menu. Once the menu appears, immediately press the S key to activate spin, which perform a radial array. Keep in mind, this is destructive, meaning you can change the count afterward, like with the array modifier. But since we are happy with the layout, I'm going to stick with this approach. Next, I'm going to looking for a place to add some detail. We can actually perform a few more cuts. I'll switch to side view, enable curve, and draw a thin rectangle cut at the very bottom. Next, in this area, we are going to make a large cut. So I'm going to drag from here like this and cutting it in. Now let's add some pattern detailing. Select the cutter and activate curve again. But this time I'm going to choose N-gon. Draw a cross line like this and add a bit of depth to it. Then connect the endpoint with G, turn and press spacebar to confirm the operation. Repeat this process. Draw a line from the opposite angle. It gives us a nice symmetrical pattern. Just follow through and confirm the operation again. Finally, repeat it at the bottom to create that industrial detailing feel. Now hide all the cutters by moving them into the cutter collection. That looks insane. This is exactly why the cover add-on is so underrated. Next, let me check if we need any improvements. Yeah, the bottom looks too flat, so select the top layer, switch to face mode, select this face. Now run a very small chamfer. Now insert the face, then extrude it up and scale it down slightly. That add more structure. Now let's do something at the top. We don't want to leave too much empty space, so I'll add a tiny cylinder, scale it way down, move it left, position it evenly, then scale it up on the Z and move it up slightly, I think, and apply auto smooth. Next, we'll use the same radial array method. So select the object, press Alt plus E and use the spin tool. Increase the count, I think probably, level looks decent. Now shift select the main cylinder, then press Ctrl minus. This creates a cool circle pattern at the top. If it seems like the operation failed, here's a simple fix. Go to the boolean modify stack and switch from exact to fast. Sometimes exact works better and other times fast is smoother. Use whichever works best. Now hide the cutters and let's go even further. We still have spacing around the chamfer area, so I'm going to add another cylinder, scale it down, move it left and scale it up on the Z. Press G, Z to move it up, then G to nudge it left, then G, Z again to raise it a bit more. Apply auto smooth and I'm going to rotate the cylinder slightly on the y-axis. Now apply scale and add some detail to the front. Now select the face, run a very small chamfer, insert the face, extrude inward, insert again and extrude again, add some bevel, then insert it one more time and finally extrude along normals. Now I'll build the inside face and increase the segment for a smoother look. Let's rotate the cylinder a little for more balanced. So go into edit mode, add a loop cut, bevel it, extrude it inward for depth and finish it off with a chamfer. This piece is done. Now let's duplicate it around the main object. So use the same method, select everything, press Alt plus E, spin to duplicate. It's overlapping a bit, so I'll reduce the count by 1. Yeah, 6 is perfect. Now we got a strong top detail, which really ties the model together. Without it, it looks kinda average. But this makes it pop. Let me also apply a small bevel to the outer layer. select the edge loop, run a small bevel and extrude it slightly inward. Pull the whole piece down just a bit, not much, just a small adjustment. So that wraps up the modeling process. Now we are moving on to the texturing and final rendering setup. Alright, let's throw some material on this model. Don't worry, we are not going full shader wizard here. Just keep it simple with a few node setup. First, make sure you're in the shading mode. I think you can hop into the shading tab. It might be really flexible, I think. Now, it might be set to the world by default, so make sure to flip it to object, or else you might be wondering where your material node went. Now, before we dive into the node setup, I highly recommend grabbing the KitOps free add-on. Seriously, underrated. It makes material assignment way smoother. Just scroll down this video description, grab all the zip files. So you would find a link to download the KitOps add-on. So just click on the add-on, download all the zip files, and once that you download and saved in your machine, unzip the one file which is called KitOps premat. Alright, so back in Blender, open your preferences, head over to the add-on, and instead of digging through folders manually, just hit the little arrow and pick install from disk. Navigate to your unzip folder, select the KitOps free 2.2 or something, and just click on install. This is the main add-on we need. Now it's going to ask you to set up the material library path. So expand the add-on section and click the plus button to make a new path and choose the folder you unzipped earlier, the one with all subfolder inside. Hit accept and boom, you're ready. Save the preference and we are ready to go. Now hit N to open up the side panel and you'll spot a little hot looking icon. That's your KitOps panel. From here, you can preview and slap on material directly. Now let's start with some plastic. I'm going with a dark yellow plastic. It gives a nice industrial vibe. I'll add that to the outer shell of the cylinder. Just select it and hit add material. Super easy. Next, for the main cylinder body, I think a metallic material works, so maybe a matte dark finish, something that feels solid and grounded. I'll apply that, and for the small piece scattering around, I'll refuse that metallic shader to keep consistency, except maybe one. Let's throw in a yellow just to break it up a bit. Now for the mini cylinders, we isolate them earlier with a /, and we need to select the middle faces, but here's the catch. Since we use a destructive workflow to duplicate them, we got to do this manually. Bit of pain, but if we had used modifier, one change would apply them to all. So yeah, just head up for the next time. Once those faces are selected, we'll open up the shader editor and assign our yellow material. Hit the little plus, assign it, and done. I'm going to do the same for the main cylinder, so select the middle faces and add that yellow through how that I looked at it. It's a bit too saturated, feels a little off, so I'll hit the home in the shader editor to frame everything, and I'm going to tweak the yellow brightness it up a bit, pull it slightly towards an orange tone. Just something that doesn't scream school bus. Still looks pretty basic though, so let's fix that. We are going to dirt these things up a bit, literally. Here's the plan. I'm going to mix our brightness orange shader with a darker brunch version. So I've got my BSDF shader, move it up top, crank the metallic to max, drop the roughness to about 0.3 and give it a dark shade, almost black. Now we are going to blend these two using a mix shader. So I connect both shader into the mix, then send that into the material output. By the way, if you want to add a node, you can just press the spacebar key and type in the shader name, which will very easy for to add them. Right now it's a 50-50 blend, but that's not what we want. I don't want it to look like evenly mixed. What I want is patches, areas where the darker shader punches through, like dirt or wear or tear. That's where the noise texture comes in. This node, it gives you the black and white breakup. That's perfect for masking. So I connect the noise directly into the mix shader factor input, and you can already see the grain started to form. But it's kind of soft, right? We want contrast, something with bite. So we drop a color ramp node. Now we got full control. I drag the black and white slider close up together to push that contrast. Then dial in the scale, details and roughness. Set the detail to 15, roughness to around 0.6 and just mess with the scale until it feels right. I'm just eyeballing it, moving the sliders until it looks pretty in the best way. Now it started to feeling more alive. It's got that imperfect, slightly worn looks that sells the realism. And here's a fun challenge for you. Do the same thing but invert the idea. Take the dark metallic material, add a white dust or smoke effect instead. Kinda like grain buildup or oxidation. Alright, give that a shot, experiment with those nodes, and once you're done, we'll jump into the final render and polish things. Now, let's head back to the layout tab and set the scene a bit. We got this awesome model, but it's just floating in the void. Let's give it a something to stand on. I'm jumping to the object mode, select everything and move it up slightly. Oops, looks like we are losing some of the boolean cuts. Yeah, that's happened because we didn't apply the modifier yet. So if you're ready to render and you're happy with how everything looks, now's the time to start applying those. You don't have to worry too much about applying the bevel or weighted normal. They are fine to leave alone. Bevel just helps the edge shading, so no big deal there. Now that everything important is applied, I'll move the whole model up a bit. Let's set a plane, scale it up, stretch it a bit on the x-axis, slide it along the y, and just setting it up like a stage flow. But instead of just showing one lonely model sitting in the middle, let's make the scene a bit more dynamic. So I'll duplicate this whole model, Shift plus D, and this time I rotate it on the x-axis 90 degree so it lies on its side. From the front view, I can see it's floating. Yeah, it needs to touch the floor. Let's bring it down until it sits nicely. Looks like a part of model is clipping through the floor. So instead of fiddling with the model height, I'm just going to nudge the plane downward a bit. Now I box select this rotated version and just rotate it slightly on the z-axis. Something subtle, just enough so that it doesn't feel too robotic or copy pasted. Adds a bit more realism, like it was dropped or casually placed. Alright, time to figure out our camera angle. I'll orbit around the model and looking for a good composition. This slightly tilted angle here, yeah, that feels nice. Add depth and a little drama to the shot. So let's set a camera, and instead of manually trying to align it, I'll just go to the view, align view, and align active camera to view. Boom, done. For the resolution, I'm going with 256 by 1440. That's a crisp 16:9 ratio, perfect for social post or thumbnail. Now make sure you selected the camera. Head into the camera properties and under lens, bump the focal length up to around 95mm. It zooms in a bit, compresses the perspective. It just looks better for these types of shot. You can press GZZ to slide the camera forward or backward along the local z-axis. Same thing with G plus XX to pan it left and G plus YY to move it up or down. That's where we get it centered perfectly on our model. Now for the flow material, super simple. Just click on new material, drop the base color to black and crank the roughness all the way up. Give it a matte studio backdrop. But here's the thing, you won't see anything of this nicely. You need to set up some proper lighting, and for that we are using an HDRI. So head over to the shading tab and switch the shader type to world. You'll see two nodes already, background and world output. Before we do any further, make sure Node Wrangler is enabled. It's a life-saving add-on, so just go to Edit, Preferences, search for Node Wrangler, enable it, and hit Save. Now, click the background node, press Ctrl+T, and it'll add an extra node for you. Environment texture, mapping, and texture coordinate. Click Open on the environment texture node and load up your HDRI. If you don't have one, no worry. I'll drop a link to my HDRI in the description. Grab it, throw it in, and once it's loaded, bam, your scene instantly looks 10 times better, more realistic. Alright, now it's time to render this bad boy. I'm going with a cycle as a render engine. Why? Because it's just hand down better for realism. It handles lighting beautifully and gives you a physically accurate look we want. So, heading over to the render properties, let's tweak a few things to get a nice balance between quality and speed. First up, I'm enabling noise threshold. It's super helpful for reducing those grainy areas without needing crazy high sample count. And the render sample to 90. That's more than enough for a clean render with good lighting. If light tree is turned on, just go ahead and turn that off. Scroll down to the light path section. This is where Cycle decided how many times light bounces around your scene. What I usually do is just select all the numeric value and set them to 8 across the board. Except for the volume bounces, set that 1 to 0 because we are not using any volumetric here. So it's just a waste resolution otherwise. Right below that, you'll see an option called Fast GI Approximation. Yep, turn that on. Next, enable Simplify. We are not using any subdivision workflow here, so we don't really need to tweak any value, but having it on still keeps things optimized. Scroll further down and under the film section, make sure transparency is checked. Since we are using an HDRI, this hides the actual image background but keeps all the lighting from it. That way, the focus stays on your model, not the sky in the HDRI. Under Performance, we're setting up the tile size to 32 by 32, which is good sweet spot. And don't forget to enable persistent data. And last one, optional but useful. Under Color Management, I'm setting the look to medium high contrast. It just gives your image a bit more pop straight out of a render, especially if you're not planning to color grade in a third-party app like Photoshop and that's it. Hit render image. Alright folks, that's a wrap for the today episode. We took a simple hot surface model and turned it into a full-blown portfolio piece. From modeling to materials to lighting to rendering. And if you learned something new or if you're feeling inspired to try your own version, drop a comment below and let me know what you made. I love to see how you guys put your own spin on it. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next part of the Zero to Hero series. We are just getting started and it's only going to be better from here. Thanks for hanging out with me. Keep creating cool stuffs and I'll see you in the next one.